monkey's paw curled there. Crowdfunding rating effect. I mean, yes, I think there is inflation. It's Chris. What are we talking about today? We are talking about the biggest question mark games for me, crowdfunding wise, that are coming to you in 2025. You've paid the money. You've seen the updates. They've collected your pledge. How concerned are you? Big risk, big reward, both literally and figuratively, right? You're going to get a huge, massive box with a lot of these. But is it going to live up to your expectations? Is it going to live up to what you freaking wanted when you backed it? Is it going to fill that hole in your gaming heart? It just needs to be that good, Chris. Let's go. These are games that the pedigree is there, right? That the idea behind it is there. But it's the execution. It's the, I spent how many triple digits of dollars on this game? A lot of these. To see, is this going to really be that good? Not just that good. What do I always say? That good for you. That good for me, right? It doesn't matter if it's a great freaking game that you hate. The mechanics don't line up. We all have those games where you buy them, you get them, and you go, well, that one missed the mark completely. What the heck? I have no freaking clue. You can probably think of one or two of those games right off the top of your head. Purposefully, nowadays, it seems, with more and more crowdfunding campaigns, you're not always getting what I would call informed consent in the medical community. So, what are we talking about, right? Names you're going to recognize, and why I'm concerned, but why they could also smash it absolutely out of the park. Because again, I'm putting this out there because I want to see every single one of these overachieve. Invariably, they're not all going to overachieve. So that's going to be the question mark, right? First up, right? I think this could be the best in the trilogy. I think this is more of what I wanted out of the original, or the second, or what I like out of this. And that's Nemesis Retaliation, right? Nemesis freaking Retaliation. I think this one easily has the highest potential of all three. But I'd also argue that just like with Cthulhu Death May Die right now, just like we've seen in the past with things like Aeon's End, saturation. This is supposed to be the one that takes the core of what Nemesis is. It streamlines it, and it turns into, you get to slog more. You get to assault the aliens as the Marines. Mechanistically, how is that going to make you feel? Is it going to have the tension and the dynamics that the first two had? Is it going to be a situation of, I own one of the other two, now I have this one, replaces the other two for me, and I don't feel the need to play them, and maybe I want to sell them, which, again, is both good and bad, right? You don't buy games necessarily to sell others, to replace others, to kill others. That's a very popular thing on my side of things. This is the game that kills this one other for me, right? You hear that all the time. And I love that. At the same time, right, I want a different enough experience that I can also keep in my collection, but I don't want a different enough experience because I don't really want just games cluttering everywhere. Too late. Screwed. So that is the big question. I think this has arguably the highest ceiling of any game on this list. I think this has something that I would love written all over it, and I just don't have a freaking clue. Because when it says more streamlined, what does that mean? It's not exactly like a Cthulhu Death May Die, speaking of that, because it is streamlined, it is scenario-based, it is very set up, tear down, non-intensive sometimes. But that's going to be the head-to-head comparison. And let's just stay with Awakened Realms, because the other one that is going to be, delivering very, very shortly in the beginning of the new year, I believe, or right even around the time of this airing maybe, Dragon freaking Eclipse, right? It's Pokemon with dragons. Doesn't that scream fanboyism for all of us, right? Who grew up, watching Pokemon, right? We all just saw Ash get retired, essentially. But that's what everyone has been clamoring for on the tabletop side of things, or even on the video game console side of things, right? When a couple of the spin-offs, thematic reincorporations that Nintendo may have gone after one or two of them as well on, people have been super clamoring for that. There's a reason that Nintendo's Pokemon games still freaking sell en masse. It's not because they're the most mechanically sound, significantly improved in the last 20 years. Actually, it's kind of the opposite. But I think this is triggering a lot of hopium, a lot of fanboyism, and people are hoping to capture that magic and throw it on the tabletop like a Slay the Spire, right? That, along with Dead Cells, managed to actually incorporate and encapsulate those feelings of console on the table without being too minutia or errata driven. Is this going to be it? The other concern I had was that it was going to be more of a one-player, pseudo two-player, right? We've seen that a lot with a couple other games in the past year where they're like, okay, Chris, this is a 1 to 2 player game. And you're like, oh, sweet. I love the idea of playing this cooperative with 2 players. And then you get it or you read the rules and you're like, it's really just 2 people holding hands making shared decisions, right? That's not what I want of this. And, with the explorative, scenario finding stuff situation here, how do you manage the PvE versus the PvP style of things with this? But I think it's going to be one of those incredibly interesting tests of the market. And I think with a lot of these games, I'll put this out here right at the beginning. I probably should have thrown this at the very beginning if I'm being, completely transparent. I think a lot of these are going to have crowdfunding ranking effect, crowdfunding rating effect. I mean, yes, I think there is inflation in that. And I don't know how to separate that out. I just know that it happens. I can't quantify it. I can just tell you that, it's biased because I spend a lot of money. I think I'm going to like things a little bit more because otherwise I might feel a little bit too let down. And it's kind of hard to admit that when you got a hole in your heart that way in the first place. It's going to be a great test of the market, though. I love the idea, but of the two, Dragon Eclipse is going to be potentially maybe a little bit more easy at the table because I think Nemesis Retaliation is going to need more people. But let's go to the other absolutely massive fundraiser. Go on board in Cyberpunk. I love the idea of this sort of pseudo dungeon crawl real-time element. But just like during the campaign with Retaliation and Eclipse, I didn't get a rule book. And so the big problem or the big worry I have with a real-time game, as illustrated by their playthroughs, was that I have no clue how much rules incorporation was up here that they've already internalized before they were actually playing it. And as a person who loves real time, if you're doing it cooperatively in this case, as opposed to competitively, right? Like if I do competitive real time, you know what? If you're going to AP or analysis paralysis, that's going to screw you. It's not going to affect me, right? It's actually great for my game. But if it's cooperative and you have to go and then I have to go and then someone else has to go and then you have to go again and I have to go, right? Like if you're having analysis paralysis on your side of things, that's going to significantly slow things down. And the dynamic of experience is going to make a huge difference there as well. And again, I know you can kind of do other modes with that game and they've kind of set it and you can kind of, yeah, right? But you can also play it solo. It's the same dynamic. You're getting this game because it's mainly those dynamics that you're looking for. The interactivity, the cooperation, the wow, I can't believe you thought of that clever combo. Wow, I can't believe that you decided to do this, which allowed me to do that, right? I mean, you can solo multi-hand it. That's not nearly the same whatsoever. And so that'd be my argument is, can that be accomplished? And is it going to be streamlined enough? I have no clue about all the add-ons and the additional expansion content and the 37 modules with the stretch goals that they did. Like, which ones are going to be essential? Which ones could you feel like you could leave out with? Because that was sort of the question mark with The Witcher: The Old World. Is some of the expansion content, especially like one expansion in particular, is just like a part of things that people say you don't want to play without, kind of like Chopper Shop on Thunder Road Vendetta. And I hate saying that, and I hate it even more when it's in an exclusive stretch goal box. That worries me. That worries me sometimes that it means stuff has been taken out to make you feel better, like you're getting more stuff. I don't know what the random scenario generator is going to look like when you've got these linking campaigns that are supposed to be like super well balanced. Can you just random generate and do it that way? Is it going to work well? And again, I'd make the argument, just like with the print and plays to do the random generator, you're probably not going to play it enough to necessitate the random generator anytime in the next 2 years anyway. So I love the idea of it. I am a huge fan of real-time playing mechanics, but high risk, high reward in that regard. Now let's go slightly sideways here. I'm going to mention Night Games in the middle of all these, right? We got to separate it out a little bit, give you a little bit of a breather here. Wizarding Duels, Harry frickin' Potter. Somehow, this came the second time around as a reimagining of Duels, raised over $500,000 when Night Games came back. And the first Harry Potter's miniature adventure game was a terrible train wreck. The miniatures were like resin and terribly breakable. The game itself was not very playable. And yet they came back around, and because it's Harry Potter frickin' IP, right? And just like with Pokemon, it's stuff that people just throw money at left and right. They got an absolute metric ton of money. And I don't know if the depth of play is going to be there. It's going to be a fast turnaround, so we're going to have it hopefully in the first quarter of the year as well. But it's expansion heavy. I mean, you're looking at the page right now, and for £500 nearly MSRP, you could get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 expansions and rewards and stretch goals. For a game that was barely playable the first time around, I have to believe that you did significant revamping to make me want to get anywhere near $300 plus shipping this time. So I have no freaking clue. Again, I like Harry Potter. I would love a game. There are several IPs like this that would just scream great, fantastic tabletop game. But is this going to be the one that changes your mind? Ooh, boy, I'm not sure that answer is going to be one that you're going to like, especially if you went in on it. Then, of the dozen or so projects, right, I picked out this one because, we're talking about games that are delivering in 2025, hopefully. God of War from Simon. Now, again, I had mixed feelings on this, and I would make the argument that this hugely underachieved. But, like their previous underachiever, Doom War for Arrakis, is this going to get, a classic turnaround mid-video, or mid-delivery, post-delivery, I guess, whatever you want to call it, and people are going to love it? Because, again, it raised $800,000, which very utterly respectable, no qualms about that. But in the context of the Simon bubble, in the context of this is a huge video game IP, it's relatively underwhelming, folks. And I don't know if it was because they said cooperative dungeon crawler for 1 to 2, which was also strange, but I said, okay, you know what? I like that. You're sticking to your guns, right? That's pretty freaking, wait, what? Now it's all of a sudden expandable to 4 players mid-campaign? Upgrading your unique combat system with your leveling puzzles? I have no idea the relationship between characters and the challenges to go along with it. This, similar to, I guess, the other one that we have to talk about, Mordred, is a complete and utter crapshoot roll of the dice. You've got Avalon the Rivenvale going head to head with a Mordred style area control, dark Arthurian style vibe. This could be very much like a Dune War for Arrakis scenario where they absolutely overachieve, eat crow, happy to do so. Or is this going to be a Trudvang Legends, right? Not that Trudvang Legends is absolutely horrible, but they totally revamped it, and I still don't like it for what it is. The system is broken as a whole for me. So that is my concern. Again, when you're spending upwards of $300 to get a pledge for this, because I know, as you guys always tell me in the comment section, Chris, I have to have it all. I have to have it all, Chris, or it's not worth it. I got a bunch of that with Enormity, and I got a bunch of that with Cthulhu Death May Die recently with those launching. So take that for what you will. But I have to at least put that out there. Similarly, I guess with Dead Keep, the other pre-order, right? No clue. These are just complete and utter unknowns, and I wouldn't be surprised any other way. Now, slight side tangent with this one, because it's different than almost everything else on this list with Food Chain Magnate from Lucky Duck. No question about mechanics, right? It's Food Chain Magnate, right? They didn't change a single thing mechanically, as far as I know. So if you want a really good game and you know what you're getting from that game aspect, I think you're going to be very, very pleased. But as I said previously, and the previous roundup of the must-haves and where are they now, people were letting me know, well, Chris, I really like all that over-deluxified plastic that looks like it's from the 1980s. Yeah, it needs it. Splotter could use an upgrade. And I'm like, you know what? Fine, man, fine. But this also, on the campaign page, I, personally speaking, was not a fan of this aesthetic. I wasn't. It reminded me of the He-Man from Seaman, right? It looked too nostalgic not to be from actually the 1980s. And, I think the post-production stuff from Food Chain and Lucky Duck has looked better than the renders that they had during the campaign, so I'm super happy about that. You know, you sort of monkey's paw curled there. You said Food Chain Magnate needs more artwork. Okay, next game. Spirit Fire from Orange Nebula. Right? This one's way behind, and it reminds me of a different Encompassing Orange Nebula game in the form of Unsettled. I don't know what to make of this as a surprisingly solo game only. Substantive, emotionally driven experience with aspirations beyond the expected iterations of tactical combat and standard gameplay. There is no combat because it's experience where you find conflict, pressure, and suspense in countless other types of difficult challenges that life asks us to overcome, including the tensions we face deep within ourselves. Wisdom is your only weapon here. No, that's literally the Board Game Geek description. So how do you feel about that, right? Seeks to provide the greatest single-player experience available ever in the minds of TCGs and MMOs and roguelike Metroidvanias, fantasy fictions, anything new and fresh. I don't know. Drop in, drop out multiplayer and cooperative player again. Reminds me of what I was saying earlier, right? If you're going to make this a cooperative game, is it going to be truly cooperative, or is it going to be hand-holding, making shared decisions? I personally don't find that fun. I want different decisions, different people, different control. I want Spirit Island. I want asymmetric factions operating independently, but working cohesively, rather than Kumbaya, Lion King, Hakuna Matata style, if you will. At the same time, at the last update on this game, nearly just over 2 months prior to me filming this, they're kind of like, you know what? We have such creative people that we can't use an outline of due dates of when stuff is going to be done, so we don't have a freaking clue. We're still processing the skill trees and the skill checks that are going to go along with this game. We have so much developing and testing and, you know, just trying to create more stuff. So if you're still kind of creating stuff and mechanically doing stuff, I'm not even sure that this one is going to be available to you a year from now. That would worry me a lot. The other thing that was kind of weird was you had to buy like a whole separate core to do the multiplayer. So the core pledge was $99. The partner pledge duplicates, essentially, if you want 2 of the core pledge and everything that goes along with it was $189. And if you want to play with 3 people, you just have to buy 3 cores. So you can bundle them together and save like $10 each. But that doesn't scream like cooperative to me. That screams sitting at the table, playing the same game independently and saying, hey, how's your game going? Oh, my game's going good. What are you doing in your game? Oh, okay. So, I mean, this could be one of the best solo games of all time, but whew. Peace out, man. No clue on this one either. Another big hit or miss one, I feel like for me, high potential, high risk, high reward, is Santorini, the Pantheon edition, with the cooperative mode, as well as the reskinning, the balancing of a lot of those powers. You know, as I've said previously on my channel plenty of times, with a game this recent, it's not like super recent, but this recent, does it really need another edition? Right? That goes into the QA that comes into a lot of the crowdfunding in the first place, but that's a whole nother side tangent, a whole side rant, and a whole side video, if you will. But I think that this could be something special. But my problem and my concern is, and the reason I couldn't really back it on crowdfunding, was because I looked at this and I said, is this going to be another min-max situation with the cooperative element as you're going across, puzzling, linking them, and doing those aspects of things? Or is it going to be, you know, there's going to be a little bit of variability, a little bit of randomness that allows you to adapt to it in a scenario by scenario basis? But because of the nature of it in the first place, there really wasn't a good way to tell some of those aspects out. And again, not always a thing that maybe a publisher or designer wants to say, like, hey, there's only going to be one solution to this. That's going to be a turn on for some people as they try and figure out what that right combination of the exact order of the exact mechanics are going to be. But then other people like myself are going to look at that and go, you know, I want to be able to have some variability with this. I want to be able to put whatever hero in there or whatever character in there and adapt to what the character is going to do. Like, I don't want to have certain ones that I just can't combine with certain other ones. We've seen that with other games. I mean, that was the big problem with, say, something like a Batman Gotham City Chronicles in the first place, right? You just had to have certain ones in certain ones and the round pegs in the round holes. Otherwise, the game went completely sideways almost. And so that is why this is just a big question mark for me. I love abstracts. I love Santorini. My wife hates it, which is why we don't ever play it. But I would be willing to try this, especially from a cooperative standpoint, if I had more of an inkling and more of just a assurance. And because I just can't be completely assured, high risk, high reward. Probably for me personally, more so than for a lot of you. But again, that's, self-reflection more than anything else. I'm getting slightly better at it, I guess. Then we're going back to Go On Boards with their previous one as well. Witcher, Path of Destiny, right? Witcher, speaking of things that just get thrown money, The Witcher, anything The Witcher just gets absolutely thrown money, gobsmacked all over the place. Did you like the idea of a 45 to 90 minute follow the Path of Destiny via tableau building with cards and miniatures where you craft sagas and complete the merging of the combos to go along with it? Sometime mid 2025, you'll get your copy, but sort of the tableau management and the iconography matching with miniatures, like I would have been very happy to try this game out without miniatures. And this one has, again, like sort of a retail try it, if you will, kind of gives me Foundations of Metropolis vibes. So I'm happy to, keep it on my radar. But are those two things going to work really well? Like when you see your heavy Lacerda games on crowdfunding, what if all of a sudden your heavy Lacerda game wasn't $129 or $127 like it's been the last couple times that Eagle Griffin's come around? What if it was all of a sudden $160? But don't worry, this worker placement game has plastic miniatures. Ooh, Chris. Ooh. Right? Like, you can do it, but does it need to be done? Kickstarter, GameFound, over deluxeification on all accounts, right? So I'd love to see what the pricing of this is also going to look like later at retail. Again, with their exclusivity and what sort of add-ons they're going to be. And they sort of did like a little Eastern Asian style vibe of a core as well. Ronin, essentially. So you can get that too, I guess, if that's your preferred flavoring and theme. But we'll see sometime later in about 6 months or so if it's on schedule. You know what? Last one here. We'll give a special shout out to my friends over at Penguin and Panda Productions. Onimaru. It's been about 3 months since their last update saying that the game is supposed to be shipped. And as sort of a very cool looking Japanime game previously with an Eastern Asian Dice Throne meets Aeon's End style vibe, this was a very, very exciting game. I think 2,000 days ago when it finished funding. And it raised over $200,000. And so we'll see, right? Supposedly it's on its way. Supposedly we'll see if it actually has any game to go along with it, or people just going to be so unhappy that it took this long and this much, pulling nails to get it, that they're just going to turn around and sell it for cents on the dollar either way. So that's all I got. Have a great freaking day. And soon I'll be talking about things to watch out for in 2025. And I have a Patreon if you would like to support me there and help me convince you not to back stuff or what to really be interested in the first place. That's all I got. Stay classy. Have a great freaking day.